Welcome to the Open to Hope show. I'm Dr. Gloria Horsley with my daughter and co-host,
Dr. Heidi Horsley.
These shows are brought to you by the Compassionate Friends as well as the Open to Hope Foundation. The reason Heidi and I do these shows is to really bring hope and healing to those of you who suffered a loss. We love to bring upbeat people, don't we, Heidi?
We do, Mom. We have some fabulous guests today, and we know them well, and we've had them on the show before, and we also have a wonderful song and singer-songwriter joining us, too.
Fantastic. I know you're really going to enjoy the show today. And if Heidi and I had one request of you all, if you could just tell one or two friends who've had a loss, any type of loss, about this show, you'd be doing them a great service, and about going to our site, opentohope.com, for hope and support.
Absolutely, Mom. And I think it's really important because we're a show that's not about loss, we're about hope.
Absolutely.
And our guests today have both had sons that died when they were teenagers. And they have found hope, and they are very positive guys, and they live their life with joy, and they live their life in tribute of their sons. So, Mom, we are going to interview today Ron Villano. We've had him on the show before. He's written an amazing book called The Zing. Ron is a psychotherapist, and he works all over New York. He has a staff, and his son Michael died in a tractor-trailer accident at 17. And then we have R. Glenn Kelly, also known as Ron. He has written a couple of books, Sometimes I Cry in the Shower and The Griefcase. He and both Rons speak all over the place. They're keynote speakers and they're workshop presenters. And his son Jonathan died of a congenital heart disease and heart failure. And like I said, they're both very dynamic and they're both very positive, and they speak as men that have been there and that have found their way from the darkness back into the light. And then we are going to have an incredible award-winning singer-songwriter, Anna Huckabee Tull, and she has written Living the Deeper Yes. She is a life coach, and she is going to sing the song Bright Eyes, Bright Eyes. She commissioned songs for people, Mom.
Absolutely.
And she commissioned a song for a man that's daughter was dying and that died.
Wow. Sounds like a really power-packed show today.
It will be.
Well, hey, glad to see you all on the show today. Ron Villano, so great to see you on today.
Thank you.
And R. Glenn Kelly, and
My
I can't
pleasure.
reach you, Anna.
Hi, Ron and Anna. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, it's so fabulous. You know, there's so many men. I think you guys know. How long has it been for you?
I lost Michael July 22nd, 1998.
Yeah, mine was only 2013, so I'm going in my 5th year now.
Okay. You know, so many guys don't want to talk about it.
Yep.
I mean, I'm saying that. Maybe you guys are guys and are finding this whole world of guys who are willing to talk about grief and loss. But when Heidi and I go to Compassionate Friends, we look around the room and we see, what do you say, 80% women?
70 or 80% women.
And the other 20% are there to support her, right?
Yes.
Isn't that what you're here? Yeah, I'm
Yes.
just here to support her.
Absolutely, Ron. Yes.
We have seen an upswing, though, and we've attended the two last Compassionate Friends together, and I noticed an upswing there, and I noticed an upswing at the conference for bereaved parents of the USA of men that are in attendance, and I'm encouraged. And maybe that's because of some of what Ron and I have done.
I think so. I think seeing both of you out there presenting to the world, educating the world, and talking about this lets other men know it's okay. We can be there. We're part of this. This is our loss, too. I don't know. What is your thought, Ron Villano?
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, when I lost my son Michael, I said he took my life.
Yeah.
Now I say gave me life.
I love it.
Very good.
I took my life. I mean, how many people out there are thinking it's your first year,
Yeah.
took my life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know.
Just took it, you know, and now I say he gave me life. Now everything I do, I live in the moment. I learned how to live in it now. It took a long time, you know, between let go and let God. It's a long road. You know, it sounds easy, but it's a long road. But if you want to do it, you could get there. I live life now every day probably more excited, more joy than I ever had.
Wow.
And I credit that to Michael. But I lived very miserably for many years to get to here. So, and now the opposite side is, but I attest that to how much I was in love with my son.
Right.
So he taught me what it was to be in love. So I knew what it was to be in love unconditionally. So because that love was so deep, the hurt was just as deep on the other side.
Right.
And then I learned through all of that to get to this point and evolve to here. So I live in the moment. Like I'm not here today to promote me in any which way. I'm here to promote to other people that one person sitting in one spot in their house, they can't get out, like I was, depressed, you didn't want to live, you want to die, you know, it doesn't matter who's around you. That's the person I hope that I could be a vessel to touch. That one person in there says, wait a minute, maybe there is a little light at the end of the tunnel. And then with help from somebody like Ron and some music, and we're a team.
Yeah,
There's no way
I like
anyone
that.
could say that they did it, you know? So
How about you, Ron? What's your thought on that? You've got one aspect that Ron doesn't have, and that's you had an only child die.
I did. And, you know, a little deeper aspect to that, too, and not many people know this, one of the reasons why things were kind of odd for me is because the day Jonathan was born, they said he wasn't going to make it through the night on his first day. As you said, he had a congenital heart defect.
Yeah.
And a rare one, where normally they give up on a child when he's born with that condition. But a miraculous surgeon just jumped in, did some experimental surgeries, and gave him what should have been a prognosis for a full life. That's why it was tragic to lose him. But I had to witness him become a hero. I had to witness him become somebody who, throughout his life, he loved life, and he knew that he shouldn't have been here.
Wow.
He went through a lot of medical research because of that rare condition, where he just avowed himself to be studied in all of his records and all the experimental surgeries. He had a very special life just being here in the first place. So when he left me with that despondent feeling at first until it hit me too. And the good thing that we have now, the other point on that is the fact that what I'm seeing in men is we're starting to realize in men, you know what, I might be this way. There might be a certain way that I am as a man, but guess what? I'm supposed to be this way.
Right.
And I'm going to stand up and tell people that it's okay to be who we are. The book, Sometimes I Cry in the Shower, and I'm not trying to pimp the book, but
That's okay. We can pimp the Zing, and we can
Yes.
we're happy to have you guys do it.
We want
Showing
people
it
to
on
know.
the screen.
in the book I say, don't change who you are. This is who I was,
Yeah.
and this is who I accepted to be, and I'm not trying to change myself.
Right.
And that's the way we have to come through this, realizing that we are who we are.
Well, I like that idea because we wrote a book also called Real Men Do Cry with an NFL quarterback of 10 years, Eric Hipple. He worked with the Detroit Lions, and his son died by suicide as a teenager. And he said part of the issue is, and I know you guys will speak to this, is the messages that boys are given growing up. Big boys don't cry, walk it off, suck it up, be a man, all those things. And it's like, so he's like, you know, we're giving all these messages, and yet it's normal and okay and courageous to show emotion. And to fall apart sometimes and to cry in the shower.
And I think there's two parts to that. There's nature and nurture.
Yeah.
I'll contend, and you know, the discussions I've had with people, I think there are things that are buried in our DNA, both male and female, in the sex, that drive us to do some of the things that we do.
Yeah.
You know, you mentioned community, the Compassionate Friends, a little bit, and I just want to, I heard you say before we started the show about Alive Alone, and for people who are watching this show that don't have any other children, could you tell them just quickly about that?
Alive Alone is just a wonderful nonprofit organization out there, bereavement support organization for parents that have lost their children but have no and grandparents that have no surviving children left at home.
You know what I love is that you say that they have no surviving children because they're always parents.
Yes.
People don't get that. You know, they think, oh, they don't have any kids anymore. You know, but they're their kids.
Sure.
Right.
And I did. I had the blessings to do the keynote speech at the Bereaved Parents of the USA conference this time,
And
one of
Ron's
the
done
best-
it there too.
Yeah, good.
Yeah.
But one of the best responses I got is when I stood up and said, you know, I went through all this and I thought through all this, and the very one thing that I came out of is that I am the father of Jonathan Taylor Kelly.
Oh, I like that.
And everybody stood up and applauded that.
Ron, I like that. And that's important for people to hear.
Because I had lost my identity. I thought I had lost my identity at one point.
Yeah.
So when I was able to say that the one identity I brought back before I brought back any other identities is I am the father of Jonathan Kelly.
And it took you a while, and it's exciting when it hits.
Sure. One thing that happens, especially for a man, is the fact that in my case, because he was my only child, I relished in being his father. I mean, my identity was wrapped around being the father of this marvelous, wonderful miracle child, because doctors glommed on him, and all the other kids and parents really loved John. He was a hero kid, and he was gone.
Yep.
Right.
You know, I had been, and we talked, I'd been a cop, I'd been a Marine. There were so many identities that I had in my life that I could have gone back and said, okay, this is who I am. But I voluntarily left all that behind, but I did not want to leave fatherhood behind, ever. But when he was gone, I actually sat back and went, am I still a father?
Right. That's big.
And a lot of us go through that. Am I still a parent?
Right.
If alive alone, if you're left with no surviving
Great.
children at home.
Thank you. Ron, I wanted to talk to you a little bit about what you've gone on to do, because I'm like blown away. When I knew you a while ago, you've got all these therapy practices all over the metropolitan area.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that. You went from somebody in bed
And remember, he used to sit in the tree. He used to sit under the tree in the front of his house in a chair all day.
Yeah, in a chair all day.
I remember
for about a year.
Yeah.
For about a year. Yeah.
And how many things have you got going?
Well, we have 5 locations, in New York, and we have multiple therapists that work with all different disciplines, and a very strong administrative staff. We take same-day appointments, but we work with everything: grieving, obsessive-compulsive depression, and you name it. But we're also connected with psychiatry and nurse practitioning, clinical psychology. So we work with the whole thing. So we're there to get the optimal health for the person. So if we can't do it, that's our real motto. If we really can't do it, don't do it just to do it. You got to send them to the person that really can get them forward in the counseling. Because as a counselor, we know our goal is to get these people to keep moving forward, whatever it takes. I'll stand on my head, whatever I have to do to get someone just to smile, because there's so many ways to grieve. Whether divorce is going on, whether somebody lost their job, whether someone lost their pet. There are people who lost a pet, that pet was their child because they couldn't have children. So there's so many different ways. But to speak also with what Ron was saying a little bit, as someone who lost a son who has 3 other children, I know a lot of people like myself didn't pay attention to the other 3 children. So they actually suffered based on that the focus was on Michael. Everything was about Michael.
Right.
Until my daughter one day, she was about 8 years old, sitting in a couch, and looked over, and I was talking about Michael to someone on the phone, and she said, "Wait a minute, we love Michael, but I just want you to know you have other children."
Who do we call the forgotten grievers?
Yeah.
Or the siblings.
Yeah.
So she threw that in there. So, so from that point I started realizing, wait a minute, I got to pay attention and make Michael part of the family, not make him up here because it's going to...
How far down the road was that?
That was maybe about 6 years down, 7 years into it, because I was so depressed for years, it was crazy.
Yeah.
But also as men, I believe most of this stuff, reason why men don't grieve like women do, the good news is I believe it's based on learned behavior. So if it's learned behavior, it could be unlearned, and new behaviors can be learned, which is I think where we are. And a lot of men can follow that. Once you think it's solidified, it's like, oh wow, I'm the alpha, I'm made for this. No. I think a lot of men, not all, but a lot of men were made into that. They believed all these things that they were told.
Right.
And that's what gives low self-esteem and a lot of other things in life. So to me, I always feel I was blessed with a mother that never taught me any of that. I was the mama's boy, and I'm open about it. So I learned a lot from my mother, like just be non-discriminatory, feel, cry if you want, all these other things. So I would always joke, I'm not really the man's man. And a lot of men that I meet will say, no, you're more of it because you can do that.
Right.
I'd rather be able to do that. So it's a nice feeling. So it's something maybe men out there listening know that.
As far as finding hope again, what is a piece of advice or information you would give to the guys out there if they're in a bad place and they want to start to heal a little bit and move out of the darkness? What would you say to them?
Foundationally, the ideology that you're still here.
Okay.
All of us believe in something, whether it be God or whether it be Yahweh, whoever you want to believe in, you're still here. My opinion, and it's helped me through a great deal, is the fact that I know He had His plans with the Maker, whatever you want to call the Maker. And if I'm still here, guess what that means? That I still have plans. And those plans might be unknown. For me, I always said that there was a mission that I was to go on. I was to live out Jonathan's legacy, because he helped out so many children that were born after him with the same medical condition that will now go on to live longer, and he never got to meet them, or he'd never be able to meet them or know them.
Yeah.
So I'm going to live out his legacy. But get back to the foundational question: is realize that you're still here.
Yeah.
That person that you lost, that lost loved one, if they are looking down at you, they don't want to see you go and sit in the front yard. They want to see you move forward.
One of my phrases is, honor your loved one's life by living yours.
Love it. That's
We
good.
forget how precious life is.
I know. And I've had a discussion recently with somebody. It's so odd that it takes this for us to realize how precious our life really
And
is
short.
day by day. And then I forget it until the next time something comes up to remind me that life is short and precious again.
Heidi, are you going to let the sibling thing drop completely? Do you have anything more you want to say about it?
I love that Ron said all this, because we are the forgotten ones, as this Ron said, and we are our losses minimized. And the idea that you have surviving children, because we are counting the number of pictures in the house.
Absolutely.
And we are seeing that Scott has got 40 pictures and I have one.
It's true.
And we are wondering if we're enough for our parents. Are we enough to keep them alive? Are we enough that they will have joy in their lives again? And when they are in bad places, we don't think we are enough.
Yeah.
Right.
So I love the idea, like you both have said, to live your life as a tribute and with joy, and to live your best life, and to remember that the surviving children. I'm always saying when we do toasts, if you do a toast at Thanksgiving or during the holidays, say, hey, this is a toast to Michael and Jonathan and to Scott, but this is also a toast to all those that I love that are still here. And let's say their names and celebrate them as well.
Yes.
Absolutely.
So bringing to everybody, not just
Absolutely.
those that we've loved that are no longer physically with us.
One
And
thing-
we know they're still with us
One
in
thing I
other
did
ways.
for my whole family was about 8 years in,
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Michael didn't die every year, July 22nd. He died one July 22nd.
That's right. I like
That was
that.
8 years ago.
Ron,
What are
that's
we
so
doing?
good.
You know. So then I said to my kids, I said, we're going to have on Michael's Day a celebration of joy. We're going to talk about Mike and make it fun, like he's here, just part of us. And I
I
got
love it.
pizzas and I got everything. And you know, of course, my younger daughter's a riot. She thought I was a little nuts, but she goes along with me. So we got everybody together and we did that. From that point, I saw an upswing because it kind of broke the. I said, we're not meeting every year. Poor Mike, poor that. No, that was 8, 10, whatever years ago. We're going to celebrate his life because he never left. If somebody went into the military today, someone's son went into the military for a year, they don't see each other. They're still loving each other.
That's right.
So you communicate in many different ways, you know.
Yeah.
So we did that, and it was very, very helpful, even till
I
today.
love what you're saying.
Yeah.
That Michael didn't die every July 22nd.
No.
He died one time July 22nd.
Yes.
Because we have these anniversary dates where every year on that day we have to grieve
Yes.
really hard, and it brings us right back to that moment in time.
Yep. We relive that day.
Now, I don't want to give a
Yeah.
message out to people who are married that every time the anniversary day comes, that I'm telling them, I don't want no women getting to me. So I'm telling them celebrate that day. but you know, when you really think about it, right? I mean, the person never isn't dying every year.
Exactly.
And every time that you do that, it's just like I see like 9/11.
Yeah.
Every year they play that.
Yeah.
And you watch that. And I said to people, I said, you know, in all fairness, that's once a year, and they have to relive this thing.
Right.
And read all their names
But
and do this.
me, as a parent whose son was killed by a tractor trailer, I have to see kids and people dying in crashes on the front cover of newspapers
That's right.
all the time.
That
And a
is
lot of
true.
these people starts triggering back. You know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
start,
Very
so they're
much so.
getting all this back all the time. I contacted newspapers and said, I have a great story like he does. Why don't you do a story on me, a full page,
Yeah.
to let people know that there's life beyond the death.
That's right.
Something joyful.
Yep.
Never would do it. Newsday wouldn't do it. No newspaper
That's what
would
I
do
find
it.
fascinating. People like to know the way they die, but not the way that we've
Nope.
gone on to live and
Nope.
celebrate and find joy.
Yes.
And you guys certainly have.
But what you're doing, you two guys are doing, is what's needed. But the media still believes in the news that's negative is going to sell.
If it
Right.
bleeds,
Not
it leads.
necessarily.
Right.
They
Right.
want to hear this
Yeah.
out there. They want to see this. But if you notice, there's a lot of broadcasters on radio and stuff like that
Yeah.
that say things that really are colorful,
Yeah.
whatever, have no meaning.
Yeah.
But they have millions of listeners and viewers.
Right.
Now, why is that?
Right.
Because the big machine said, well, people are listening. I'm telling you, there are more people would listen to this
Yeah.
if this was on mainstream than they would want to listen to this negativity.
Well, that's why
I
we
agree.
started public access, and thank goodness
Yeah.
for public access, because it gave us the opportunity to bring our message out on TV. We're doing radio for 10 years.
Yeah. And these
Yeah.
cable shows for 5.
Well, could I make it about you for 1 second? I'm
Fine, it's a Men in Grief show.
I'm totally
We'll make it a Women in
amazed
Grief show. Hi,
at
here we are.
all the work you two do, and I was even telling Karen that in the car. I'm amazed at the work you do. You don't get paid for it. Your only motive is to spread the word because of the loss you've had, and maybe spread some joy to other people. And I'm amazed. I don't do this much of what you guys do. So I'm just
it's what I
telling you.
needed after Scott died and didn't have, and we love to have a platform for people like you all that are here, Anna included, because you lost your parents, right? Mm-hmm. So all of us are coming from a place of loss, but we're all here to say you can have joy. If you've lost hope, please lean on ours, and let your life be your message.
Good.
And we want to talk a little bit about what you'll be singing today and why you write your songs.
Yes.
So, people commission me for all kinds of different things to do songs. And the one I'm going to be playing today that you mentioned called Bright Eyes is a father who contracted Lou Gehrig's disease, or ALS, which, as you know, sort of slowly makes all of the muscles stop working. And he reached out to me and said, I'd like a song for my daughter. I'd like to be able to leave it behind for her, but I'd also like, before I pass on, to be able to share it with her. So we did this interview. he couldn't use his hands anymore. He lived far away and he couldn't type, so he used his eye to poke out to point to each letter on a screen to answer the questions that I asked him about what is it you want to communicate. Think about it for a minute. If you know your time is very limited and you're trying to communicate with the child, if your son had been able to say, I know I'm leaving and here's what I want you to know, that's
Amen.
what this song offered up.
Oh,
and I
gosh.
thought he would want to compose a song about death and loss. And he did not. He wanted to create a song about what it felt like when I was healthy and able to really be present with you, because I want you to always remember
what you want.
I love
what
that.
that felt like. And that's what this song celebrates.
That is
Wonderful.
so
And
neat.
I shared it with them. They shared it with each other. The ALS Association made it a song on their website. And then I did play it at his funeral as well, which was a hard
I would think.
Wow.
thing to
Yeah, I
do.
would think.
You were really ready to go right down with the whole thing. Good for you.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people aren't ready to go right to the high. I think that's why it's hard, because people just really aren't ready.
Yeah.
Well, I want to really thank you guys for being on the show.
I'm
and
honored. Thank you for having
It's
us.
Yes,
really
thank
been
you.
fun. Could you give us one piece of advice? You can start, Ron, for men, say the first year, and maybe what got you through. What was the most helpful?
I would say allow yourself to go through it. Allow yourself to feel the pain. However, I'm a very big believer in journaling. So when you journal, it's the only time you could actually see what you're thinking and put it on paper. If it looks sloppy, if it's wet from tears, it doesn't matter. Journal, and the more you write, the more you're taking the stuff out of your subconscious, and you're going to take the old stuff out. However, replace it with some new books,
I like
new
that.
different stuff. And it doesn't have to be about grieving. Books that have nothing to do with grieving, just new stuff, and fill your thought library up with some new stuff. But you need to write to empty out the thought
Fill
library.
your thought library. And there's been a lot of research that supports what you're saying, and you probably
Okay.
already know that it does. It purges when we write. It purges it. It gets it out of our system.
Absolutely.
Grief gets trapped in the body.
Yep.
I like this, Ron.
Yeah.
It does get trapped in the body. If I were to give advice to anybody first year especially, is 2 key words: awareness and understanding. Try to be aware of not only what you're going through, but what your partner might be going through too. And it doesn't have to be a mother and father that might have lost a child. It could be a mother-son dynamic, or a father-daughter dynamic, or just friends and partners out there. But realize that we're all going to go through grief, this, differently.
Yeah.
I always say that, as long as you're not harming yourself or others, drinking more alcohol or getting into recreational drugs, that what you're going through is okay. It's who you are. Seek help, especially if you start going down that road. But to understand more about you, which has really got me to move forward where I was before, I started to understand, and I started to become aware. And once I started doing that, everything changed. So especially when you're looking into relationships, if I start to realize how you are, then I start to understand why you are the way that you are.
And hopefully you figured out how I am for the show. But anyway, thank you all
That's
for being
awesome.
on the
That's
show
great
today.
Thank
advice.
you.
Thank
Great
you so
advice.
much.
And
Yeah.
thanks
You.
for watching the show today. And well, Heidi and I always want to remind you that if you lost hope, please lean on ours till you find your own. And God bless.
Bright eyes, 1,000-watt smile, bright skies of the Coronado, miles and miles of sailing out on the bright sea, sailing along, my bright-eyed girl and me. It was like nothing to be sailing along, watching you laughing, and find myself laughing and strong for you. Pushing you on a swing, holding you close and then setting you free. The simple things, what time is taking, the hugs I can't offer you as I watch this body wasting. It was like nothing to lift you to the sky. It was like everything to see me through your bright, bright eyes. But my courage does not halt or falter now. I will love you long past my last breath of air. God does not give us the burdens we deserve, but the ones we can bear. So watch for me eternally, feel for me in the passing breeze. One day I'll be sailing free right beside you, and you will see